Well, the government has removed the use of convalescent plasma therapy from its treatment protocol for adults in COVID 19 situations. The government appointed a task force on COVID 19 removed plasma therapy from the treatment protocol for adult COVID 19 patients. In the revised clinical guidelines for management of adult COVID 19 patients, use of convalescent plasma therapy has been removed even as an off label treatment. AIMS ICMR COVID 19 National Task Force revised the clinical guidelines for management of adult COVID 19 patients and dropped convalescent plasma therapy. Until now, India's COVID 19 treatment protocol allowed off label use of convalescent plasma therapy, but only at the stage of early to moderate disease. That is, with 7 days of the onset of symptoms, and if there is availability of a high titer donor plasma. The COVID 19 treatment protocol is prepared in consultation with the Indian Council of Medical Research, AIMS New Delhi, and a few more. This decision comes just as scientists and healthcare professionals wrote to the principal scientific advisor, K. Vijay Raghavan, cautioning against the irritation and non-scientific use of plasma therapy in the country. Public health professionals say that the current guidelines on plasma therapy are not based on existing evidence. They also pointed out that reduction in formation of antibodies may be linked to plasma therapy. Scientists have said that the current research on matters indicate that there is no benefit offered by plasma treatment for COVID-19. But is this the right way to go about it? And is this something which could have been done a lot earlier? We'll try and get to the bottom, or rather to the scientific, logical reasoning behind the discontinuation of this therapy, which has been around since COVID-19 came into our lives. To talk more about this, joining me on the show is Padma Shri Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairman and MD of Nephron. Also joining us on the show is Padma Shri Professor Dr. Mohsin Wali, cardiologist and physician. Dr. Ishwar Gilada joins us all the way from Mumbai, infectious disease specialist and health expert. And last but not the least, Dr. Swati Maheshwari, internal medicine specialist, former senior consultant, Fortis Hospital, is also joining us to talk about this latest development. Dr. Bagai, in your opinion, and this is a conversation we have had off the cuff a lot of times in the past as well, that plasma therapy had been around for a while, but its redundancy was also becoming a nuisance to doctors and specialists. But do you think there has been a delay in discontinuing it?
Good evening, Vineet. So just to put things in the proper framework, when you talk in terms of convalescent plasma, that means you're taking plasma from a person's blood donation. You're separating it through a cell separator and plasma separator to take out the plasma, which is 55% to 60% of the blood component, and then infusing it into the person who's potentially a recipient. Now, there are many variables which have been analyzed, so I'll give you some data as a backdrop so that it's scientifically accurate. The initial data came in December, January, which is from a largest meta-analysis platform known as the Cochrane trial, in which they did 18 randomized controlled trials, and they showed no clinical benefit and no improvement in case fatality or mortality. Then the famous Lancet trial, which was published from 11,558 patients, published on 14th of May this year. It has shown no benefit of improving survival, no change in mortality. This was the famous trial called as a recovery trial. And no change in signs and symptoms, and no change either in the duration of stay in the ICU or hospital. There was an initial in-between trial which was published in Science Today, in which again it showed no change at all as far as the clinical outcomes and mortality is concerned. So you have three very large publications in the last 3 or 4 months which have shown that it has not worked at all on any front, either clinical, survival, or long-term, short-term outcomes, clinical or survival. Now, it's important. Just allow me a couple of minutes, Vineet, because I want certain frameworks in order so that all the viewers can understand. Otherwise, it will be medically a huge case for them to understand because it's a technical issue. What we keep talking about is neutralizing antibodies. Neutralizing antibodies are a type of antibodies amongst many antibodies which are produced from the B cells. Unfortunately, in India, not many labs were actually testing the titer of the neutralizing antibodies before giving it to the recipient. So you need theoretically a minimum level of protective antibodies so that the person who's receiving it gets that much protection. You also need to time it to 14 to 15 days after the donor has recovered. And you also have to time it in mild cases. So where are the real issues? One is of timing. Two is of individual dependent on how much antibodies which person is producing, because each person is not going to produce at the same time. No one is getting tested the way it should have been done. Then there are antibodies which we call as non-neutralizing antibodies. There are antibodies called as binding antibodies. There are antibodies to the spike protein of the virus. There are antibodies to the spike and receptor binding domain, RBD, complex of the virus. And now more recently, the main antibodies actually work on the NTD, that's the N-terminal domain of the virus. And you have three supersites, they're called as supersites of gene locations where the antibodies actually go and latch on. To cut a long story short, no one knows which antibodies, whether they are there, not there, they are not being tested, what grade, what potency, what level, what titer. And we were randomly giving it as in a hope against hope that people will survive. Now, it does not work in severe cases. Now, which are the patients who are in the hospital? The severe cases. So it is a complete fallout of the basic understanding of science. You are targeting the group which never should be targeted. It is only to be worked on mild or very early mild to moderate cases, but that group in any case is managed very well at home. So what are we treating and why are we treating? Now come to the severe cases. The severe cases you would have seen on social media, on Twitter, on WhatsApp, O negative, B positive, XYZ blood group, donor, patient is critical. Patient is critical, that's exactly why you should not be giving it. Because you can actually further enhance the cytogenic storm. The antibodies don't work when your cytogenic storm is already in full place. What are the risks of giving the plasma as convalescent plasma? After all, it is a blood product. Even though the blood products are screened for HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and hepatitis E, there is a window period of infection for this. God forbid there is a patient who has donated it and he's in the window period, even though he's tested but still harboring it, the donor may actually latently and silently get infection, which was never intended to be given to him. Point number two, there is something which is called as antibody-dependent enhanced reaction. So instead of doing good, you can actually do more harm, and you can go into fulminant pulmonary edema and alveolar pneumonitis, which means really disastrous situation. In trying to help, you may be harmed. Last, most importantly, is that we have never spoken about in this full concept of plasma therapy. Right. There are the T cells. The T cells are your main protective long-term memory cells, which kickstart the entire cascade of your immunity. T also works on your B cells, but T cells were never entertained, never thought of. Last, most importantly, is there is no role of this in the mutant strains, because all this was initially conceptualized for the original Wuhan virus. We shall now start calling it, with the permission of Dr. Wali and Dr. Gilada, as now as the Chinese virus, because people internationally are very fond of calling certain strains as Indian strains. So this was all focused on the Wuhan virus. There is no concept and no studies done on the mutants. So we don't know what we are embarking on. And last point which I want to make is, whenever you change the ecosystem of the virus, that means you give convalescent plasma, you're putting selective pressure on the virus, in which the virus will further mutate. So score is 0 and 100, not give at all.
All right, Dr. Wali, from taking a leaf out of what Dr. Bagai said, is that there was reason enough to believe that this was perhaps more detrimental than it was useful for patients who were having a caseload which was above moderate. But at the same time, from a citizen's point of view, from a concerned person who wants to stay clear of COVID-19, there is a lot of confusion out there. The Delhi government, a number of governments across the country have set up foundations for accepting donations of plasma. There are other NGOs which have also done the same. For a person who was in fact donating plasma, or for people who were in fact asking for plasma, this comes as a very confusing sign. Already there is confusion galore to do with the gap between the vaccine. How does that add to the conundrum that Indians are already in?
Yes, the data does not support the use of convalescent plasma to any degree of any severity of COVID patient. Yet, as you told, it was widely publicized. We had seen emergence of the plasma banks, and we had seen quite with pomp and show in Delhi and Maharashtra, and people were begging for the plasma from those who had suffered from COVID. Keeping the all on one side of the balance, the other side is lots of people have got plasma. Our basic problem is that we do not do studies in our Indian set of patients. We receive the publications from West, but in this case we also received publications from East, naming China and Netherlands. And both sides of the publications send a positive, negative reports, and Dutch people went to the extent of saying that you redesigned the study. You reminded us long back, we had a discussion when this ICMR study came, which was labeled as one of the largest study in the world, and it was grossly denied at that time, and we had to really fight for what we established and what the people were getting out of these facilities which were opened. And you see, in one of the hospitals we had the plasma bank, and lots of people were queuing up there for plasma. So basic point which I have made in this is that we have to study further, because they pleaded, the school of thought in support of giving plasma therapy pleaded that it is a very old therapy, 150 years old therapy. Plasma therapy was tried in Ebola, the previous SARS outbreaks, and so on. But I made a point that in that study, which came as a headline news in Times of India at that time following that ICMR study, did not show any difference in mortality, but had 2 or 3 small positives also, that like how did patient felt, appetite improved, and there was a small difference from the discharge from ICU. So all this put on the other side of the pen the benefits of this in Indian population by the Indian studies were also analyzed in one of the studies by Dr. Agarwal et al. And they studied 1,400 patients, and they came out with the conclusion that it is difficult to say that this helps. My point, other point is that since we are transfusing antibodies, and I will have one more point after that, so the vaccine is also doing the same thing. So basic difference between these ready-made antibodies and the vaccine-produced antibodies have to be common in studies. The basic danger or basic apprehension after giving plasma therapy is that damage to the lung tissue. As Dr. Bagai has said.
Dr. Bagai, I think your phone is ringing. If you can just put that on silent, sir.
Yeah, sorry. I will also add to this that apart from exposure of the lung to the damage or cytokine storm, I have another point that perhaps we will have a better substitute in the days to come, that Swiss antibody cocktail, which would probably replace this plasma therapy. So we should keep our eyes and ears open and wait for that. This may be substituted with that. I'm not telling beyond that anything, but my main purpose is that we have to do studies. And today also, yesterday also, whatever letter had gone, that also mentioned that probably this therapy must be responsible for the mutation of the virus. So they have correlated it with mutation of virus, safety, and so many things. But I have another point that people who have received plasma therapy, none of them so far has reported a severe adverse reaction as is anticipated in the plasma therapy. I myself had plasma therapy. On both the occasions, the color of plasma was different. So there are certain things beyond we know, certain things beyond we see that never re-study. So it's a nature. Everybody's nature is different. There are smaller blood groups. There may be clash of blood groups, and so much tissue injury which might appear little later. That is a delayed response. So it is safe not to expose a person who is already suffering from a disease like COVID by a foreign substance. I will call it a foreign substance, which the demography of the patient is different, habits of the patient different, and that all reflects this plasma. When we go to believe the religious,
Okay.
they say what you eat, what you live in the environment, it reflects in your nature.
Absolutely. It's what you eat is what you become. Dr. Gilada, CPT is out, and there are obviously going to be a number of people who are going to be nostalgic about this treatment. In your opinion, how efficacious was it, and were we in any way deferring its usage or its non-usage? Please unmute yourself, Dr. Gilada.
Actually, if you look at our country's profile, we are in hurry to start something which is not even proven, and we are delayed in stopping something which is proven that it doesn't work. So the Cochrane study or the studies which were done by WHO, 2 months to stop it. And if you look at any other drugs like ivermectin, doxycycline, azithromycin, they never worked. It was never proven. We started and we are unable to stop it. Secondly, plasma. If you go to plasma therapy, it was used in the Spanish flu era. It was used in SARS, MERS. It was used in H1N1, poliomyelitis, mumps, measles. Whenever vaccines were not available, at that time they were trying, and therefore they thought that if it was tried earlier, there's no harm in trying. But the conditions which were put were very clear that we are not able to follow them. For example, the antibody titer should be more than 1,000. I have not seen a single person with 1,000 titer, hardly one or two. Secondly, titer are not done routinely. They are done only by 1 or 2 labs. And again, it is doubtful whether the titers are correct or not. And thirdly, it has to be given on 7 days of infection. Now, 7 days of infection means what happens is when the person starts getting symptom, 2 days before that infection starts. So whether 7 days from that time or 7 days from the symptom, that is not clear. And there are people who vouch by non-medical, lot of them vouch by plasma therapy or blood transfusion so much that about 10 days before there was an invitation for me to talk on plasma therapy. I said, I don't believe in it. They said, why don't you believe? We won't like to have a program. I said, you modify the program. They didn't want to modify the program. They had a program on plasma therapy. So there are people who would be too much vouching for it because they would like to show that their club or their organization is doing some activity to collect plasma and blood. And similarly, a lot of our chief ministers and ministers, they started plasma banks in Maharashtra, in Delhi, in many places. And inaugurations were done with a lot of fanfare. But to stop that, they were not willing to do that. So there is a big problem. And once for all, it is good that it is stopped now. And I would like to appeal to the medical community that once it is stopped, don't try to use it, because don't try to break your brain. You are not, we are not hardcore researchers. What we do is applied research, and it is very difficult to have a kind of a placebo control trial. How many people were done? How many people are not done? And secondly, a lot of people anyway are going to recover. So we cannot give credit to plasma. So if you don't have a placebo control trial, you can always say that credit can go to plasma or anything what you are doing, or discredit can go to anything which you have been not using it. So let us not do any trial and error. Once it has stopped, we should stop the use of plasma therapy in COVID.
Okay, Dr. Maheshwari, do you think that the plasma therapy, convalescent plasma therapy, was a desperate act in desperate times? Because obviously there was no vaccine, the research was very novel and new, and people were running from, including the medical community, running from pillar to post, trying to figure out some way whereby which this nuisance of a virus could be controlled and stopped. And now that considerable amount of pace has been achieved in curing, plasma therapy is no longer required. Where do you stand on this?
Absolutely, Vineet, I agree. That's the beauty of medicine and the daringness of medicine, that whenever we are faced with such kind of new threats, the medicine people do try to find ways to, to circumvent it, to control it as much as we can. And we always look back towards history as to which maneuvers have been helpful to us in the past. And convalescent plasma was one such therapy because we had used it in many diseases, as rightly Dr. Gilada just mentioned, from diseases like polio, measles, Ebola, all of them we have tried plasma therapy and we had a couple of good results as well. And so when we were in the pre-vaccine era for I think coronavirus as well, we thought that this could be one tool which could be very helpful for us, and we had some initial kind of results which were encouraging and which motivated people to try more and more of plasma therapy. But obviously, yes, down the line when we think about it and when we see, then we do realize that plasma therapy though was promising, looked promising early, but it did not actually kind of give therapeutic benefit to the patients as we were expecting, for sure. And definitely I'm happy that it's been kind of ticked off now, but I would have been more happier had it been done at least 2 or 3 weeks back, because the kind of commotion that happened here in Delhi, and ICMR itself did a study, Placid study, where they found that plasma therapy was not too beneficial. So they were very well aware of the fact that plasma therapy was not doing good. So I think I would have been more happier if the decision would have come at a more opportune time, especially when people were running helter-skelter here and there, and so much of confusion was happening around, where doctors were prescribing, where patients were trying to find, the attendants were trying to find the plasma therapy. I think it would have been a better time to take the decision, but better late than never, I would say. And definitely, since the studies now are pointing that plasma therapy was not too beneficial, and we have lots of studies now, as Dr. Bagai also just mentioned, not just from India but from the other countries as well, and it's quite sufficient data for that matter to say that yes, plasma therapy has not been too beneficial. Though we thought, even if you look at plasma therapy for that matter, it has a lot of advantages otherwise speaking, because you have these neutralizing antibodies, you have these receptor binding domain antibodies, then you have an immunomodulatory effect of plasma as well, and helps in a lot of phagocytosis, trying to control, and it has antiviral properties for that matter. But unfortunately, it did not work well with coronavirus. That's what we can say. And it's good time to actually tick off and look at different options that we have, and look forward to more such tools which might come into our hands. Like we recently had 2DG launch here in India, then monoclonal antibodies are on the horizon, which soon will be available in India. So obviously medicine is an evolving branch, it's a dynamic field, so you keep on evolving as and how you kind of experience what your how you've had your patient experiences and all and everything. So it keeps on changing. So what medicines we started with hydroxychloroquine, if you remember, when coronavirus, the whole epidemic actually started off. And from there to now, today, we are sitting at drugs like 2DG. So I think we've gone a long way looking at this last 1.5 years for that matter. And that's how medicine evolves, people from, and the good part this time was that people from across the world were pooling in their researches, and people were sharing their researches, which I think was a great boon for humanity at this point of time, because we could hear the views of people sitting far away in Australia, Europe, America for that matter, and people here in India could, give their researches out to them, and everybody was trying to help each and everyone, which was, I think, one very important point of this pandemic, that this time, the whole medical community came together and everybody was trying to pool in their resources, help with their experiences to others. I think that was the critical point, and good that, we are ticking off the ones which have not been beneficial and including the ones in the coming times, which could be beneficial to us.
Right, Dr. Bagai, the question that was in fact doing my rounds when I was listening to you is that I know a number of people who have benefited from, the convalescent plasma therapy. In their mind, the big question is going to be, are they in any way vulnerable or not vulnerable, to future variants or onslaughts of the virus? So you'll have to unmute yourself.
Am I audible?
Yes, there you go, sir.
Yeah. So first and foremost, it's important to understand that when you are given a particular therapy, it's not a monotherapy. So this is a polytherapy which is in conjunction with various other interventions and standard point of care. And I don't think there is any data which has actually done a randomized control trial in India to show plasma therapy without any other therapies which have enhanced the improvement or improved the outcomes have singularly benefited the outcomes. I don't think that study exists, and I don't think it's true. With regards, is there going to be any real side effects? By and large, if there is any hypersensitivity reaction as far as a pulmonary alveolar pneumonitis or pulmonary edema or any other reaction of antibody-dependent enhanced reaction, is generally acute. So if they have survived and they've gone home, I think they have survived in spite of plasma, not because of plasma. The other point which I want to make very clearly is plasma is another HCQ. I think a lot of initial therapies which came with a huge bang and circus, they went out as quickly. In the end, what I would like to mention is, in the hope and anticipation, not knowing fully well that you can't do anything specific, trying to do something to pretend to show to the patient that we're doing something is wrong medicine. Okay, now the only thing which is required actually, even in severe cases, is actually supportive care, is hydration, is little bit of steroids, but in a very, very monitored dose, and ventilatory support as a last resort, maintaining oxygenation. Now, in the gamut of this plasma, there is a lot of recent research which has now come on, in which between day 5 and day 7, that's when the patients are deteriorating in the second wave, there is a lot of alveolar changes which take place, and there is a right to left shunt. So medically what happens is, when the blood flows from your right side circulation to your left side circulation, I'm breaking it down into immensely non-medical language, what you then get is ongoing hypoxia and deoxygenated blood circulating in the body. Therefore, all your metabolic cascades and cytogenic storms also flow in. What we really need to be attacking is this right to left shunt, which is a reversal at the pulmonary level. And there are lots and lots of studies happening as we speak right now internationally just on this. And they've targeted very, very specific antivirals which are looking just at the reversal of this right to left shunt. So if the patient has gone home, best of luck, wish him well, take care, stay at home, wear a mask, eat well, drink water well, no alcohol well, but keep well and safe at home. I don't think there are any long-term side effects. We won't discuss that right now. But the message really is, start something when it is proven that it is going to cause benefit, irrespective of what all other parallel collateral evidences show. It has to be an independent study to show that it is beneficial. Unfortunately, CP, that's convalescent plasma, was started in a hurry, like many other drugs. There was a very large conference which I attended on this Sunday between the local state associations from about 18 different states in India and Mayo Clinic, Rochester in USA. And even over there, they have mentioned very clearly, I won't go into the details, of what minimum requirement of neutralizing antibodies and subtypes of antibodies. The setting there is very different. In spite of all the technology and know-how and expenses in screening and analyzing the components before you transfuse, even there they said questionable. So in India, I'm very happy it's off the radar.